All right, we are back at the Environmental Lab podcast. As always, I'm Mike Gomer, your host. This is brought to you by Limbs Plus. We have a unique guest here today. We have Mark Kovscek from Conservation Labs. He is the founder and CEO. He's out near Pittsburgh. Mark, thanks for being here.
And Mike, thanks for the invitation. And I think you called me interesting, or I already forget the word, but I'll take what I can get. Appreciate that.
You got it. You're an interesting guy. You've got a new product. New to me, and it's the first I've heard about it. We had a conversation and I thought it was fantastic. I thought there was some overlap to what a lot of my clients do and who they serve, and I wanted to hear more about it. So Conservation Labs, how did you come up with it? Where did it start?
Yeah, well, it started in my basement, and I had actually a leak in my house is where it all started, all the way back in 2014, 15. Didn't know that leak was there until we had a few rather expensive water bills. And I started playing around with ideas. So in way of background, I'm a mathematician and was trying to sort out a way to get really cheap data that I could use machine learning to sort out if there was a leak in the system. And after what was initially an intellectual curiosity and kind of then became a hobby, found a way to convert the sound that water makes in a pipe into a quantification of that water use and even a classification. So kind of exceeded my original desire and expectation that I was able to not only identify if there's a leak, but even tell you with a single sensor in a home why the water was even moving in the first place. Was that a toilet flush? Was that the lab faucet use, the kitchen faucet use? And so from that intellectual curiosity and hobby, a company was formed. And there's a joke about mathematicians that we like to solve problems on paper and then move on to the next one. But Conservation Labs started because of a particular passion that I have for things around sustainability and efficiency. And so that's the rough sketch of our starting story.
So you said the sound of water, right? You said
right.
The sound of water. So you are interesting, because if I have a leak in my house, the last thing I think about is coming up with a math equation or quantifying how I could solve it. It's just who's the plumber and how much do they cost. So I am not a mathematician, and I guess I think differently. Tell me about the sound of water. So are you saying the water in my pipes in my house, I guess, is not moving unless I turn on a faucet, I flush a toilet, I run the washing machine or something like that? And so if it is moving and none of those things are happening, you're telling me that means there's a problem somewhere.
There's a problem in the system someplace, or even like a toilet leak is probably the most common leak in the built environment, in the residential environment, offices, etc. And even those have a particular pattern because they have a defined duration and a defined periodicity, meaning that if there's a toilet leak in your house, what's likely happening is that every 20 seconds it's running, and then it takes a break for 17 minutes, and then it runs for 20 seconds. So those are patterns that you can find with algorithms. And so we're not only finding catastrophic leaks, like water moving all of the time, but we could even find those periodic leaks, like a leaky toilet or even a leaky faucet. And the reason is that every fixture, and we're using a home as an example, but it doesn't have to be a home. It could be a restaurant. It can be an industrial application. Like every system, every way water leaves the pipe, and home's easy to think about because we all have ways water leaves our pipes in our homes. It actually has a unique audio profile or sound signature. There's different names for it. And it's essentially that everything in your house has a word and a voice. And we're learning those words and voices with machine learning, and then telling the user what's going on with all of those fixtures and faucets.
So I'm no mathematician, but let me get this right. I think from a predictive perspective, you're taking the sounds that were made and then you're taking the outcome, right? And then you're modeling off of those dispositions to, I guess, support it statistically with, has this happened enough time and made a sound within the same threshold that would equal leaky toilet, right?
Yeah, and you always want to start with the baseline, and the baseline is easy. The baseline is no water's moving. So silence is your baseline. And then every time a fixture is used, it creates a sound. That sound is pretty much the same everywhere. So a toilet sounds the same everywhere. but it might have a different intonation. It might have a different dialect. And that's where the machine learning really kicks in, is that I have to learn the unique sound signature in each property. But we have a good starting point, and then the model learns or self-trains and calibrates itself. And we can use a little feedback to accelerate that training, but not necessary. And so once you have the baselines established, no water movement, normal water movement, leaks become really easy to identify at that point, because if it's deviating from what's normal, it's very likely going to be a leak.
So I want to stay on this house thing. I know it's not necessarily your primary target residential right now. We'll get into what you are targeting in the industries that you are doing well with and focused on now. But for the sake of this, of my understanding, let's stay on my house for a second. How are you hearing what's going on in my pipes? What is this a device or what is it?
Yeah. I'm holding the device in my hands. It's maybe part, nervous fidgeting, but the device is about the size of a deck of cards. It has a coupler. The coupler attaches to the device, and then the coupler straps to a pipe. So there's a sound chamber here. There's a sound chamber on the outside. And if you have noise canceling headphones like I do here, same concept. There's a microphone here and a microphone on the inside. You flip the switch. I'm trying to control so I don't hear the sound in the environment and only the sound coming from the pipe. And so we're collecting that sound on the main line when it comes into your property. And so from that main line, that single point of entry, we can actually hear the sound or the distinct audio signature of each of those fixtures all the way back. And reality is it was in part the inspiration for it. If I stand where the pipe comes into my house and somebody flushes the toilet, like, oh yeah, that's the toilet flush. Somebody's running the shower, oh yeah, that's the shower. Like, it actually will sound different even to the human ear. But this microphone that we're using, it's a very inexpensive microphone, but it's the same one that's in every mobile device across the globe. It has a lot of precision and resolution around what it collects. And then we leverage that with the machine learning. And, we can outperform the human ear. But more importantly, we could do this millions of times over in millions of different locations without a human being in every one of them.
So I love that. So it's one device in my house, just on the water main, just on the inbound water main. That's it.
That's right.
And what does it do? Beep at me if something goes wrong, or how do I know something's up?
Yeah, so if there's 3 ways to interact with the data, again, whether it's your home or a big industrial operation. So one is if there's something catastrophic, we want to alert you of that immediately via text or email. There is what I think of as a business intelligence tool for water, so a very robust reporting application, which you can look at that data any which way that you want, because we're literally recording every water usage down to the second, and of course classifying it, putting the rate of flow, the total water usage. It turns out that not everybody is as big of a data geek as I am, so a lot of folks are very happy with getting a summary report at the end of every week, letting you know if you're up or down, where your highest water use is, what the risks are, if there are any leaks, those types of things.
So who's using this today? Get me into that. So who are your users of it right now? And what are the benefits they're getting from it?
Yeah, so we're focused on large commercial operations in the built environment. So those are multifamily users. We're doing offices, now quite a number of growing opportunities in the restaurant space, but also industrial applications and hospitals. So any place with 4 walls and water running through it is fair game. Just turns out that our network is very strong in multifamily and restaurants. The value there is very high in both of those situations, and the value is high elsewhere. But where there's lots of water being used by humans, value is high, and it's because I like to joke humans we're pesky things when it comes to our water use. We do terrible things with water, whether that's taking 20-minute showers or leaving things on or forgetting things or not recognizing a leak. And so when there's lots of behavior that we can analyze, we can look at where those behaviors are inefficient, where the systems might themselves be inefficient, and then of course if there's leaks in those systems. And so if we do those things, we're helping reduce the water consumption. The primary way you create value with our technology is by identifying those inefficiencies and identifying what we refer to as the everyday leaks. And I'll put this in perspective again in a home, and this could be a multifamily, it could be an apartment unit as well. But we're creating about $400 a year in value in reducing your water, associated waste, and associated energy costs, because water is typically the second largest consumer of energy in the built environment, but more so particularly within residential and restaurant. And the value actually in restaurants even much higher. So a restaurant, we're seeing upwards of $3,000 in value creation, again, just on utility reduction. But then there's risk mitigation because of leaks. So we're reducing the likelihood of a leak that's causing damage, causing lost revenue. And then we're also reducing the maintenance costs. So now imagine you're in a multifamily property, and instead of getting random calls about leaky toilets, you can now be proactive. And we're now very close to the point of predicting the likelihood of a leak and assessing the risk. And so our ultimate objective is to prevent a leak from happening even before it does. So right now, like the state of the art is how fast can I tell you that there's something bad happening? We want something bad never to happen in the properties that we're monitoring.
So that's great. I love that you guys are growing so fast, and I'm in the same boat as you. As the use cases feel endless to me.
That's right.
What does it cost? So if you're going to save, $3,000 a year for a restaurant chain or something like that, what does it cost to install?
Yeah, so the sensor is pretty inexpensive. We retail the sensor for $129. And then there is a monitoring fee that is per sensor of $36 a year, not per month, but emphasize a year. So that's the basic cost. Now, if we do the installation or one of our partners do the installation, it can vary anywhere from $50 to $250, depending on really the amount of work to get the sensor to the pipe. So there are three things you need. You need a pipe, you do need power, and you do need Wi-Fi access. With those three things, it's a pretty easy installation, but if you have to cut walls and drop outlets, it can, that can drive the installation price up a little bit.
It sounds simple to me though. I mean, I know where my main line is in my house. I feel like I can go strap this thing onto that pipe myself, and then you're saying there's an app that I can get access to and set it up. And I guess I could do it myself, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I can do it myself. And so can you get this like on Amazon if as a homeowner, I do want to use it, or how can I get it?
No, yeah. So we're not focused on the residential or the consumer market at all. We do run pilots and programs in that space, but it's small. That's mostly from a commercialization perspective. So I'm looking to sell the product to owner operators that have thousands of multifamily units or hundreds or thousands of restaurant locations or big properties like offices and hospitals. In fact, hospitals is an important one. And coming back to something you said earlier about use cases, if I can detect when water's flowing and if there's a leak, I could also detect when water is stagnant. And from my perspective, we call it a reverse alert. I wouldn't call it that, in my sales materials. But if water stagnation, which I know leads to different pathogens like Legionella and so forth, if we can let you know where water's stagnant and then reduce the maintenance costs with opening fixtures and faucets, there's a pretty significant value proposition there, we feel, as well.
So I want to bring it full circle. I mean, I'm here to talk about environmental labs. That's my network. That's who I talk with. A lot of them service drinking water, wastewater facilities, hospitals, a lot of agriculture stuff where there's a lot of different uses for water. Have you thought about any of those industries? And is there any scenario that you can think of that this could be useful?
Yeah, so any place where water's moving, we can create value, and the value proposition shifts in some of the kind of markets that you've described. What is common though is there a leak in the system or not? So we want to prevent that from happening. And is there a risk? Like we're working now with some fairly sophisticated and sensitive water filtration systems with various endpoints of water use, where we're learning that some of the biggest value is identifying the risk of water leaks. So there's something called hydraulic shocks in the system or water hammer events. Those shocks put stress not only on the pipes, but on those expensive filtration systems, on the membranes, on the end use equipment. Well, I could tell you exactly how many of those events there are, what the amplitude of those events, the duration of those events are. And what we're finding is there's a relationship between the maintenance and repair and the breakdown of those systems. So again, coming up with, we want to prevent bad things from happening. We see that as a common use case in this particular space, whether it's industrial, hospital, et cetera.
Yeah. Certainly gets the wheels turning to think about how value could be. Talk about your traction as a business, where you guys are as a company. Is there any, big name brands that I would know of that are using your tool right now that you can share? And if not, just tell me what's your trajectory? How are you guys doing? How big is the company?
Yeah, so I'm hesitant to share some big names quite yet because we're working on some use cases and case studies to get published. But I can tell you in the restaurant space, we're working with and scaling up with restaurant brands that have multiple thousand locations. We're piloting with some brands where their business really relies very heavily on water, that have multiple thousands of locations that we're extending our use cases. So that sector, part of the market's going really well. In the multifamily space, very similarly, we're scaling up with owner-operators that have multiple thousands of units. We're at the point now where we have 23 folks on the team, a lot of data science and engineering talent to deliver what we deliver at massive scale. We are a AI ML company. That's core of our business. We're not a plumbing company. Although, just a quick aside, our chief analytics officer is also grew up in her family is in the plumbing business. So her dad is our chief plumbing officer, addresses all of the hard questions as well. But we're a team of engineers and data scientists, and we have now easily over 12,000, maybe 14,000 sensors sold in various stages of being shipped and installed.
Amazing. That's great. That's great growth, and I love how you got to where you are and where you're going. I hope that there's ways that we can find use cases within this network of labs, owners, and operators, and who they're servicing. Because I really love what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. It's both simple and complex at the same time, and I really like that approach. And wish you all the success. So, Mark Kovscek, real quick, if people want to find you, give us your website. Do they look you up on LinkedIn? How do they find you?
Yeah, website's easy. It's just conservationlabs.com. My name is sufficiently unique at Kovscek, Kovscek. So if you do that, you'll find me and a few cousins out there. But I'm Mark Kovscek at Conservation Labs. So glad to connect with anybody that wants to learn more in either capacity.
I can't wait to watch where you go. I can't wait to see how you evolve and impact the world with what you guys are doing. So thanks for being on the show. This is fantastic. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Mike.